Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Crystal, just in case you were new here, and today I have book recommendations for the 30 plus community on BookTube. Now these book recommendations can be for anybody here. I am not just closing it off to this section of the internet, but I wanted to recommend books for people that are my age and that are kind of feeling in limbo with what they like. It's kind of hard when you're at this age and me, 37, trying to figure out what you want to read and what's relatable. Now for me, I don't just read anything. Like, I do read a lot of genres, but I need to find something that really grabs me in a book. So if I feel like it's too immature for me, or sometimes too mature for me also, then I'm not going to read it. So I want to recommend these books that I have here for the month of February, because I'm sure some of you are wanting to read some romance books. So these are books that have romance in them, but I feel like they really worked for me as someone in their 30s. So yeah, let's just get into it. So the first book I want to recommend is a book I'm actually in the middle of right now, but I'm really enjoying it and I think it's great for the month of February and early spring. So I wanted to put it in this video before I finished it. Not sure what I'm going to rate it just yet, but that is Throne of the Fallen by Kerri Maniscalco. This book really is working for me because it has all of the things that I love in it. It is a romantasy. We do have some open door, scenes in here. So if you're opposed to that, maybe don't pick this up. But it's done tastefully, it's done well, and I don't feel cringy towards it, because that's something that I find as a 30-something-year-old, that some of the smuttier books are just like, ugh, to me. And I'm not like trying to brag, but I have really good romance in my everyday life, that I'm not looking for some of the things that are in other romance books. So yeah, I think this book is like perfect, and it's written so well, and it's a book by Kerri Maniscalco, who is one of my favorite authors. Her writing just flows and it's so easy to read, but also her characters are enjoyable to read about. They never fall flat for me. They're very well developed, plots are well developed, so I really think this is a great recommendation for someone that is in my age bracket. It's giving me Bridgerton vibes, but it's not like that at all. It's actually kind of giving me like Cassandra Clare, like the Infernal Devices era. Does that make sense? Or like the Chain of Gold, like that era of books, but it's more adult. The characters in here are from like the Victorian era? I'm so bad at this. Like, I'm so bad at, but whatever the Bridgerton era is, that's where this book takes kind of like place, isn't like something like that. So to me, it's very spring vibe, very like Pride and Prejudice vibe. But it does, the romantasy part of it is it's taking place in like the 7 realms of hell, and it's based on one of the like gods of hell, basically. Well, princes of hell, prince of envy is the main male character, and we have a female main character who is like, she's like an artist of some, a painter. I mean, I kind of was getting a little bit of Feyre vibes a little bit in the beginning, but now that's kind of just going away. But yeah, I'm enjoying this. I like this type of era, especially when we're coming into the spring or like, Valentine's Day time. I made the TikTok famous, is it the Teddy Graham iced latte? So good, highly recommend. I love the taste of coffee, so it's not like overly sweet. It's perfect, cinnamon and vanilla flavoring. I did oat milk and 2 shots of espresso and a little bit of brown sugar, like half of a teaspoon of brown sugar. It's delicious. So look it up on TikTok. So the next book that I want to recommend is for our millennial fantasy romance girlies out there that loved Hunger Games, loves Twilight, and fell into like the horror genre. Like me, like punk rock girl in high school. This book is definitely for you, and I would say that is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I love this book so much. I read this in like 2 sittings. I was impressed by how much I loved it. Did not realize how much I was going to eat this book up. But this book has like trials in it, similar to like a Hunger Games, but it's almost like Squid Games in a way. It's horror trials. And the main character, the love interest is a ghost. The male main character is a ghost. And our female main character, she actually has OCD. So there's great rep of like OCD and obsessive thoughts in here. I really loved this like so much, like beyond, like the representation in here was fantastic. The setting in here was fantastic. Takes place in like a spooky New Orleans. So for all my originals girlies out there and Vampire Diaries girlies out there, or guys, because anyone who loves Vampire Diaries and that, like New Orleans, even Angel and Buffy, like this just gives me all of it. Like if you're a huge Buffy fan like I was, this book was amazing. The horror genre growing up for me, millennial time, we had the Scream franchise, we had the Saw franchise, we had the best of like the horror, and this just has that, but it's romantasy. This book is perfect. So if you are someone like me who, you know, was that type of person growing up into punk rock, horror, Twilight, you know, all of those things, because there's always a soft side to us punk rock girls. Yeah, I love this so much. I highly recommend it. The romance was perfect. It was not cringy at all. I wanted to keep reading. I wanted this book to just come to life. I cannot wait to see if this turns into like a movie or something. I don't know if it ever will, but I feel like it would be so fun as a film to see. And like a romance with a ghost, like oh my god, I just love it. Next I have a book recommendation that is for our true romance people, girlies, guys, whoever, millennial, and that is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This book was so much fun. Like, I didn't think I would have so much fun with just like a contemporary romance book, but it was so much fun. And it's a little witty at times, a little like strange at times, because there's like this romance and this plot of the main character being a runaway bride, and she's a twin. So like she runs from her old life to this small town where she knows her sister lives in, but not knowing that her sister is like wanted for a crime of some sort. So she shows up at the local coffee shop, and the guy who owns the coffee shop is like, you owe me money, like what are you doing here, you got kicked out of here, like whatever. And so it kind of starts from there, and you know, her having to explain like, no, I'm not, that's my sister, like I don't know what happened here, like I have no idea. But she decides to live here because this is the town where I guess she grew up in. So yeah, so she, you know, bumps into this guy who is like, oh my god, like he is such a great love interest. What was his name again? I think it was, is it Noah? What's his name? Knox. Noah's my son's name, but I don't know why I thought it was Noah. So Knox is a barber in the town, and I have to say, my husband, he's in apparel now, but since he's 15 years old, he's been a barber, and he cuts hair on the weekends. So like this book kind of like was my life, and I do hair. I'm a hairstylist, so this book really hit for me. And I don't think the romance was cringy. I think it's very relatable for someone in their 30s, especially anyone who's looking to get married, looking to have kids. The only thing is like there is like this like mafia mystery thrown in here as well, so it's like a little like bizarre in that aspect, but it was just so good. This is like the eye candy that I love to read in between, like as a great palette cleanser. And I'm looking forward to reading some more books from Lucy Score because I think I just really jive with her writing. But I really suggest this because if you are looking for just a small town romance that is fun to read and you get a little bit of everything in here. The main male character is a male barber and it's just so good. And he also has, I think he owns properties or something like that. I read this so long ago. I read this like 2 years ago, but I just loved it so much. I loved the romance. I loved the romance between these two characters, and I'm looking forward to reading some more. So this is a great recommendation, and let me know what you think. Then next, I have a classic to recommend you. This is the beginning of it all. This is the beginning of toxic romance genre that is like, it's actually becoming a genre. Like, I think all of us are starting to like fall into that, especially with like Magnolia Parks floating around, and like we have like a bunch of other books that are pretty popular that are like a little disturbing at the same time. But this is what I think started it all. And I think if you're someone looking to read more classics, if you haven't already, because I don't know if this was recommended reading for any of us millennials, because we used to have that in school. We used to have recommended reading. I did read Jane Eyre as recommended reading. Wow. Say that 3 times fast. But this is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Now, it is not a romantasy. It is a toxic romance between two people. And I just think if you love like Magnolia Parks, Binding 13, like if you love like just witty, like enemies to lovers, and then like enemies again, and then like bully romance, read Wuthering Heights and you will be impressed, because then you'll be like, so this is where it all began. It was right here in Emily Bronte's brain. Highly recommend this book, and it is not cringy. I will say it's not a quick read because the language is a little more flowery than we're used to reading these days, but I recommend this as like a staple for any romance reader, bully romance reader, anyone who's obsessed with the romantasy genre, anyone who's looking to write stories, read this. The next I have a book that I would say is for the people that enjoy time travel, who enjoy sci-fi, who loves the horror genre, and needs a little bit of romance. That's 11/22/63 by Stephen King. This is one of my favorite books by Stephen King. And Stephen King can write romance. Let me tell you, he does write romance pretty well. And if you don't believe me, pick up some of his books. He does write toxic relationships too. Just toxic, unlikable people a lot of the times. But this book really was so good. And now this is time travel. Our main character is basically falls into being like mission to save JFK from being assassinated. And he goes back in time in his local diner. And it's so crazy, and it's such a fun book to read. And like I said, this has a little bit of everything in it. It's got the sci-fi, the time travel, the horror elements. The romance is really like amazing in here. So if you're someone who's looking to get into Stephen King, or you have read Stephen King in the past growing up, you were a little curious about his books, this is where I would start. Even though it is a nice chunk of a book, it reads pretty fast. I mean, if you look at the lettering, like it's actually like not that bad to read. It goes pretty quick. And then you can also get the audio as well. But I really love this. The main character, what's his name in here? Jake. I really love him. One of my favorite characters of all time. Of all time, one of my favorite characters. you're just rooting for him the whole time. And then the love interest Sadie who comes into play, love her as well. And she has a serious toxic situation going on as well. But this is just so good and it just spoke to me, and I highly recommend this book. And next I have another romance, an open door romance, and that is Heartless by Elsie Silver. I am not a big romance person, like I've said in the past, but there are certain things that just work for me. And this one really worked for me, surprisingly. It's heavy on the steam. Heavy on the steam, but Elsie Silver writes it so well that I'm not cringing. I'm just like, ooh, like, maybe I'll try that, you know? Like, it's just so good and tastefully done. This is a daddy nanny book, and I loved that situation. He's a single father, grumpy, and she is just this young, free spirit, beautiful redhead chick who's just like loving life, just looking to make some money as a nanny in a small town at this cowboy daddy house. And I highly recommend this book if you are looking for a romance that's quick to read, that will have you clutching your pearls a little bit. Definitely, I was clutching my pearls a little bit. I was like next to my husband, like, you know? So very good, very good. Highly recommend, and I can't wait to pick up more from Elsie Silver. Another recommendation in the romance world is Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This is one of my favorite books that I've ever read. And I am a romantasy, fantasy, horror thriller girl on the side of the internet, but this book works for me so much. I love the characters in here. I read this so long ago, so I'm like trying to like pull some things that aren't spoilers out of my brain. I don't want to ruin anything, but our male main character is mute and our female main character is not, and she tries to pull these things out of him to like figure him out. He's just such a mystery, and it's just to find out, like, unraveling all of the things. This book was just so good, and I highly recommend it, especially to my 30+ people out there, because I just think this story has so much more than just like straight like smut, or it just has so much more that could be relatable in our age group. The trauma, things like that. I just think that this book is perfect for our 30+ people, and I just loved it so much. And the setting is in a small Maine town, which I love. That I love reading anything like in Maine. I just like fantasize about having a vacation home in Maine. It's just like, I don't know, something about Maine. Maybe because I want to run into Stephen King at like a local grocery store or something. But and this beautiful edition here, please. But I think this is a great book that everyone should read. Archer's Voice. Touching, beautiful story, and it just has it all. It has it all. So highly recommend. If the lighting and stuff looks a little bit different, it probably is because I just had to recharge my battery. I don't know why my batteries just don't hold charges anymore. I need to order new ones, so there's that. But I have 3 more recommendations for you guys. So the next one is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I really enjoyed this book. When I first started reading it, I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it. But to me, Emily Henry is not your typical romance writer. These are not your like most typical romance books. Definitely reads more like literary fiction to me. And the topics in here are a little bit more like the main focus than the romance, if you know what I mean. Like, there's definitely a lot more of the plot happening, and also like the main, like, I don't know what, like how to, like what to say, like the main what, like the like the key focus is what these characters are going through. It's not the romance. So this is not, to me, considered romance. I know all over the internet, like Emily Henry is like romance, romance, romance. And the romance that she writes is beautiful. And they're very like amazing. Like I love the romance that she puts in her books. But to me, it's definitely more literary fiction. Definitely more literary fiction. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this. I feel like this one, out of a lot of that, like her other books, I feel this is the more mature book. Definitely for someone in their 30s. I think the topics that are discussed in here, especially engagements, marriage, you know, moving on with your life, and in those big moments, is touched upon in here. And this is about like this friend group who every year, I want to say since college, went away on vacation to this like summer house. And now two of the main characters who are part of this friend group were engaged to get married, and they have decided to break up but not tell their friends that they're broken up, because this trip for this year is the final one. So they figured, let's just get through this trip and then we'll figure things out. But so they kind of fake date each other, even though, like, you know, the friends know that they're together for so long and they're, you know, planning a wedding basically. And then there's like another group of friends that are planning a wedding. So they're just kind of like pretending like they're still together. And I really loved this story because it really touches upon things that couples go through and how hard going through those big life changes together really is. Getting married changes your relationship. Having children changes your relationship. And I feel like those topics were discussed in here in other ways as well. And I just feel like, you know, this was a great book for me to read at the time that I read it, and I really enjoyed it. So I highly recommend this. And the romance is great as well. And it's pretty summery on the cover, but I think you could read this any time of the year because the discussion is great. So, and it's a great book club book, I think. So if you're looking for a book club book for your in real life book club, I definitely suggest this one. I mean, all of Emily Henry books, but I feel like there's a lot more topics in here that can be discussed for a book club. Instead of being like, oh my god, I love it. Like, there's a lot more stuff in here. The last two books are my jam. We all know Quicksilver, Kelly Hart is my new everything. This is my new favorite book of all time right now. Like, I just can't stop thinking about it. I want to pick it up and reread it already, but I just have so many books on my TBR that I need to get to. This is a romantasy, and I just think it's for everyone. But I want to say, like, us millennials, I just feel like it touches upon all the tropes that we grew up loving in our TV shows and our books and our movies, that it is like it just jived with my personality. I wasn't wanting more or less from this book. It was just like the perfect blend for me of everything. And the romance was not the forefront. They're definitely heavier on the fantasy, which I loved. And I don't think a lot of people know that the world building and the plot and the fantasy aspects were definitely more in the forefront than the romance. But the romance is there, and it's steamy, and it's beautiful, and I loved every second of it. So if you're looking for a book that's, I would say, the whole package, Quicksilver, pick it up. It's everywhere now. I love seeing in Barnes & Noble, it has its own table. Like, what? Like, my favorite book? And I want them to kind of put a sign like Crystal's favorite book ever on the table, because they know me very well in there. And I said that to the manager last time I was in there. I was like, can you put my name on this table, please? I love this book. So, Kelly Hart, if you have ARCs, hit me up. I'm here for you. I'm here. Then last is another one of my babies, and that is Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. This whole Crescent City series is my favorite. And I know I love Throne of Glass. I know I love A Court of Thorns and Roses. But the more I think about it, I love urban fantasy. Urban fantasy is my whole personality. Growing up, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, favorite TV show. Charmed, one of my favorite TV shows. I love anything that had Ginger Snaps. Did anyone see Ginger Snaps? I just love those tropes, and I don't know how to explain it, like City of Bones and Cassandra Clare's Shadowhunter series. I don't know if anyone's ever read that series, but I just love urban fantasy. I just do. And I've read Kim Harrison's Witch Walking. Is it the Witch Walking series? I read like 10 of those books. Sookie Stackhouse books. Amazing. That's True Blood, the TV show. I just love urban fantasy. So this is for my millennials that have the same likes that I do. This has everything in it. It's got werewolves, it's got angels, it's got fairies, it's got little like sprite things, little tiny fairies, pixies. I mean, we got vamps in here, I want to say. There's ghosts in here. There's ghosts in here. There is ghosts in here, right? Like there's just everything. There's witches. We got little oracles. We got everything in here. We got everything. So I love this series. I think this is definitely more her adult series. I could see why the younger generations don't love this series as much, because it's not solely focused on the romance, and our female main character, to me, is very morally gray. And I love how Sarah J. Maas writes Bryce, because she's so different than her other characters. And I think so, like Selena is different. I think Feyre is different. I see some similarities to like Nesta and Selena a little bit in some ways, which is like a weird comparison, but I don't know. Anyway, so I loved this series so far. I know a lot of people were not happy with the second book. I know a lot of people were not happy with the third book, but they all worked for me. So I think it will work for you. Pick it up. Don't be afraid of the word count, the thickness of these books, and they do get thicker and thicker. But if you love great writing, if you love a fun urban setting, this is the perfect book. Like, perfect series to pick up. And the romance, like I said, it's like, it's there and it's great and it's written well, but it's not the sole plot. There's a lot more happening, and I'm not turning the page to find the romance. I'm turning the page to like figure out the mystery of what's happening in this city. I don't want to give too much away because there is a mystery in here, so I feel like if I talk too much it might give things away, but you just want to keep reading. You just want to keep reading, and it's just, it's a sexy urban fantasy. That's the true description I could say that it is. That is it for my recommendations. I hope it made sense, because now that I'm like kind of wrapping this video up, I feel like I don't make sense at all. But I hope you find yourself wanting to check out some of these books that I'm recommending to you. And what better time than for the month of February, the month of love and romance. If you're having a hard time, you know, choosing your TBR, or if you're looking to just find something new to read that's kind of like out of your norm, definitely pick up any one of these books. They all worked really well for me as someone who's kind of just trying to figure out where they fit in this community. And I hope you find something out of these as well. Which, like, I don't know how many times I said different ways that I said that. I need to drink my coffee. That's what I need to do when I'm done with this video. So if you like this video and you want to see more recommendations from me, some more videos from me, please like and subscribe down below. All of my social media links are in the description bar down below. And on that note, I will be talking to all you guys soon. Bye!